I watched the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. Now, I'll be honest with you, before I watched it, I was not a fan of theirs. But now I've actually heard their side of the story, I fucking hate them.
The royal family, right, if you can imagine, they're like our Kardashian. Prince Harry is very much our Kanye. He occasionally dresses as a Nazi, and he f***ed up.
NBC has announced plans for a spin-off to the hit series Suits. It will focus on Meghan Markle's character's struggle to balance her legal career while also caring for an unemployed immigrant.
Just shave it, Wills.
Okay, just shut up about the hair.
What hair?
In California, we're just a regular couple living close to Oprah and far from the paparazzi. Woo! But not too far.
What?
The best thing is, no more following Granny's rules.
You sure about that?
If I want to play polo in my living room, who's gonna stop me?
Stop that!
Right away, Megs.
Simon Broadkin just completed watching the Netflix documentary on Meghan and Harry, and rather than feeling sorry for them, he now despises them even more. Furthermore, he completely ruined their embarrassing H&M nicknames.
They started off and they're making interesting points about racism and misogyny. Then they start calling each other H&M, and I just thought, oh, do f*** off.
Simon's response encapsulates the feelings that many people experienced after viewing the video. They began voicing legitimate concerns about important matters, but they soon lost all credibility by mentioning absurd minutiae like each other's company brand initials. One particular clip, though, is so hilarious that I've been viewing it repeatedly since yesterday. Conan O'Brien and Ryan Reynolds made a great comment regarding Meghan's jam company. You must listen to everything else Simon stated before we discuss that.
Harry starts describing this one date with Meghan as the night, let me quote you here, me and M pulled the pin on a fun grenade. I actually started rooting for Prince Andrew.
That's what I'm talking about. This shit means something to me, man.
Simon rooted for Prince Andrew because Harry's portrayal of a date as pushing the pin on a fun grenade is so horribly try-hard. For someone to choose the controversial royal above you, consider how awful your writing must be. That's the amount of cringe we're experiencing. After that, Simon responded to one of Meghan's most absurd grievances with the documentary.
Harry says, how do you explain to someone who just started dating that they have to curtsy to your own grandmother?
How do you explain that you bow to your grandmother and that you will need to curtsy, especially to an American? Like, that's weird.
And I'm thinking, maybe just tell her that your grandmother is the fucking...
Harry pretended that it was impossible to explain that his grandma is the queen and had to be curtsied. Meghan attended Northwestern University. She is not a moron. In 5 minutes, she could have looked up basic royal protocol on Google. It is ludicrous to think that this was some startling discovery. However, Simon's discussion of their security worries was the most vicious takedown.
They were complaining that to pay for their own security. They were not happy about that. Yeah, they were very worried about their safety, which I get that aspect of things. After 6 episodes, I wanted to attack.
Their complaints about having to pay for their own protection come from multimillionaires. The majority of people act like victims because taxpayers won't pay for their California lifestyle, even yet they can't afford security at all. Simon's remark that he wanted to attack them after 6 episodes sums up how tiresome their incessant complaining gets. After then, he gave his concluding analysis of Meghan's true relationship with Harry.
And how to break this stew, H. But if you weren't in the royal family, M wouldn't be with you.
Simon is essentially stating that Meghan would not have been interested if Harry had not been a member of the royal family. She had no intention of pursuing Harry. She was pursuing the prince, Harry. The title, the platform, and the international recognition that accompanied royal status. That was her desire. He is just another rich guy in Los Angeles without the crown connection. Simon, however, was not alone in thinking their story was absurd. Chris Rock has his own opinion on Meghan's incessant whining, especially regarding her assertions of ignorance.
Meghan Markle. Seemed like a nice lady, just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light-skin lottery? And still going on complaining, acting all dumb like she don't know nothing.
When Meghan practically married into royalty and gained immediate international recognition, Chris is highlighting the ridiculousness of her victim story. Even after winning the ultimate lottery, she continued to play the victim. People tune out because of that degree of luxury and that degree of whining.
Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google these motherfuckers?
Any analysis of her claim that she had no idea what she was putting herself into reveals flaws. She is a well-educated woman with decades of royal family coverage at her fingertips, as well as internet access. Everyone watching finds it offensive that she pretended to be totally unaware of royal life. Chris is pointing out that she is acting foolish.
It's so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be. I'm like, that's not racist. Because even black people want to know how brown the baby gonna be.
Given that it is based on Chris's own experience as a black comic, this may be his most damaging argument. His statement that even black families want to know how the baby will look removes the allegation of racism from their main grievance. It's just a typical family interest in traits and DNA, not prejudice. The attack from the comedy community didn't end there. Colin Jones added his own vicious analogies to the pylon.
President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK that will reopen British markets for American companies. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two.
The implication in Colin Jones' SNL joke made it flawless. In reality, neither nation desires them. Trade concessions are preferable to reversals for Britain.
Elon built electric cars, he's going to Mars. Why is he even involving himself with Twitter? It would be like if the Prince of England gave it all up just to marry an actor from Suits.
Their whole romance is reframed as a disastrous business error when Harry's choice is compared to Elon's Twitter fiasco. Elon had SpaceX and Tesla. Harry had a purpose and a regal responsibility. Both threw it away for something that ruined their credibility but looked excellent on paper. However, Kelly Osbourne may have caused the most unrestrained devastation because she didn't hold anything back.
I think Harry's a f***ing twat.
Kelly's criticism of Harry was direct and unreserved. This was not a well-planned comedy, Rose. This was public expression of true disdain.
He's a whining, whinging, complaining, woe is me, I'm the only one that's ever had mental problems.
The ridicule of victim mentality is powerful because it highlights Harry's self-centeredness. Mental health issues are legitimate and real. However, Harry portrays himself as particularly harmed at a time when millions of others without the luxury of wealth and privilege are confronted with comparable or worse difficulties.
Like, my life was so hard, everybody's f***ing life is hard.
Yeah,
you were the prince of a goddamn country who dressed up as a Nazi, and now you're trying to come back as the Pope? Suck it.
Kelly's final criticism of Harry's duplicity over the Nazi costume is striking. Although he refuses to provide his own family the same kindness, he wants to be forgiven and understood for his previous transgressions. People's frustration with his moral posturing was perfectly encapsulated at the conclusion. However, Ryan Reynolds and Conan's comments regarding Meghan's commercial endeavors were far worse than any of previous scathing roasts. I've been watching that clip repeatedly because it's so funny. You must first observe how the ridicule went beyond their story to their real work before we can move on to that.
Turns out Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will still get paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing. And that's just by Netflix.
In a room full of real content creators who have to fulfill their obligations, Joe Ko's joke at the Golden Globes struck a deep chord. Harry and Meghan reportedly received $100 million from Netflix. And what have they created? Essentially nothing more than a documentary on themselves. Contrast that with other producers who are producing numerous TV shows and films to support their contracts. The attacks on their work continued after that. Additionally, Saturday Night Live wasn't holding back while criticizing Meghan's acting career.
My brother's fiancée, Miss Meghan Markle, is on the American program Suits.
Yes, Wednesdays, 8 p.m, USA Network.
The only difference between that show and this is people watch this.
The uncomfortable reality that hardly one really watched Suits during its initial run was brought to light by SNL. It was only after Meghan married Harry that the show gained relevance. It would have remained a little-known cable drama that most people would never have heard of if it hadn't been for the royal link.
Whenever the kids are being fussy and not going to bed, she puts on an episode of Suits and they're out. So,
what are you doing? Ow!
Stop it! Yeah. Stop!
The joke about using Suits episodes to help kids go asleep was quite cruel. Your acting career isn't over when the main purpose of your show is to put children to sleep. They're using it as a sedative. However, the world of humor was far from over. Jimmy Carr, the British comedian, made even more scathing remarks.
Meghan Markle is, of course, a lifelong feminist, which she's demonstrated by marrying a prince and giving up her job.
The paradox that everyone saw but few dared to voice in public was revealed by Carr. She established a brand based on feminist principles, which she then exemplified by marrying into affluence and sacrificing her job to become financially reliant on a man. The irony is strong.
Harry and Meghan say they'd now like to split their time between spending your money in the UK and spending your money in Canada.
Carr's taxpayer joke effectively brought their entitlement to light. They desire the advantages of both Canada and the United Kingdom, dividing their time between nations and relying on the taxpayers in each to support their way of life. Independence isn't that. It's just being costly. The most bizarre part of this whole story may have been when Prince Harry singled out Joe Rogan at random.
I just woke up, I'm in my underwear, I plop down in front of the TV, I turn it on. The moment I turn it on, Prince Harry's talking shit about me. I'm like,
Rogan was taken aback by how arbitrary Prince Harry's targeting was. This man, who left the royal family to avoid attention, is publicly criticizing presenters by name while enjoying American podcasts. It demonstrates Harry's obsession with regulating discourse and censoring speech.
He's like, Joe Rogan's giving out dangerous vaccine misinformation. And my first thought was, did I? I might have.
However, Joe Rogan took Harry's criticism so lightly that he humorously acknowledged on television that he might have genuinely disseminated false information about viruses. The video went viral because of such self-examination and candid revelation. Everything about their lives was ridiculed. Even their absurd couple nicknames were used as props for late-night performances.
Meghan Markle has finally revealed why she and Prince Harry call each other M and H.
Mm-hmm. And he'll say M and you'll say H and your friends say M and it just is a thing.
It's a thing.
And do you both love it?
Yes, and I like nicknames a lot.
What could it be? A mystery for the ages!
The alleged mystery and revelation around the reason they name each other M and H were ridiculed by Cover. When it's only their initials, Meghan exaggerated it as if it were a profound romantic secret. It wears them out to be so self-important about every little aspect of their lives. As their career setbacks were ridiculed, the situation became even more intimate. Jimmy Kimmel attacked their choice to flee bigotry by relocating to America.
Harry said racism was a big part of their decision to leave, which you know things are bad at Buckingham Palace if they came to America to get away from racism.
Because it highlights the irrationality of their reasoning, Kimmel's remark is devastating. Harry's answer indicates that they simply wanted to relocate to America and came up with a convenient justification that isn't credible. It makes no sense to use America's own well-documented history of racism as an excuse to leave the UK.
You'd hope that the kid looks more like Meghan than Harry. No offense, but Harry kind of looks like the guy who played Screech, may he rest in peace.
Kimmel then made fun of Harry's appearance by drawing comparisons to Saved by the Bell's Screech. The simplicity of the joke is cruel. Since Harry isn't very well known for his appearance, it might not be the worst thing if their children end up looking more like Meghan. Conan O'Brien offered his own surreal interpretation of what transpired with their wax models as the personal roast went on.
I was curious what they did with Harry and Meghan's wax figures, so I found a museum employee who's temporarily storing.
Following their removal from Madame Chad's, Conan invited another comedian to perform a bit about keeping Harry and Meghan's wax statues. Their declining popularity is evident from the fact that their numbers were removed at all.
However, you have generously offered to keep the wax figures of Harry and Meghan safe.
Yeah, that's correct. And if I may, I would just like to say that I'm definitely not using the wax figures for sex.
It was made more funnier by the instantaneous, unprompted denial that the wax figures were not being used improperly. The entire situation was made much more amusing by Conan's incessant and increasingly bizarre jokes.
We're in a loving home, and I treat them better than the museum ever did. They didn't appreciate Meghan's soft hands or Harry's supple lips.
The part about treating the statues better than the museum and bringing up Harry's supple lips and Meghan's gentle hands in particular is ridiculously detailed. The joke is both funny and disturbing because of its strange specificity. Alexander Dario's account of how a casual contact with Meghan impacted her day-to-day existence, however, was arguably the most telling.
Meghan Markle has ruined your workout regime. Is this true? If so, how?
Yes, she has.
How?
James Gordon appeared to be genuinely perplexed as to how Meghan might derail someone's exercise regimen. The solution was straightforward and an excellent example of the Meghan problem.
Well, she came into New York last weekend, and she went to a yoga place called Moto Yoga, which is my yoga place. It's where I always go.
Meghan appeared at Moto Yoga in New York, which is also Alexander's usual class, which she has been going to for years, according to Alexander. All it took to start trouble was one celebrity visit.
Places in LA and New York, but now that she went there, everyone's going to want to go there, and there's not going to be any room. It's going to be harder to get into.
This sums up the Meghan effect wonderfully. She need to have the self-awareness to stay away from small public spaces like yoga studios where her presence would be disruptive to ordinary people. It is precisely this disregard that irritates individuals. The cruelest part, though, was when her business endeavors themselves were made fun of. Conan struck the ideal connection while Ryan Reynolds was narrating a story about his father's change in career.
Broker, which we're like, come on, that's CIA, right?
Yes.
And he's like, no, I'm really am a middleman for jars of jam.
He works for Meghan Markle.
Yes.
Really tiny jams, harvestable jams.
Yes, exactly.
Made from the oils of Montecito.
Conan's instant connection between Meghan Markle's company and Ryan's father acting as a middleman for jars of jam was hilarious. Her branding sounded so arrogant and ludicrous that the joke about little jams, harvestable jams, and oils of Montecito was a wonderful fit. She doesn't sell jam. She is using aspirational words to market an expensive living ideal. Despite being utterly ridiculous, Tim Dillon has his own opinion about why Meghan's lifestyle brand strategy succeeds.
What's brilliant about what she's doing is she knows people want to spend money, and spending money makes them feel like they're getting something that's better, even though it might not necessarily.
Tim is drawing attention to the psychology of marketing luxury lifestyles. If you can persuade them that a thing makes them unique, sophisticated, or a member of a select group, they will pay more for commonplace items. Meghan's jam isn't any better. She is promoting the notion that purchasing her jam elevates one beyond others who purchase ordinary jam from the supermarket.
Just thinks we're all monsters and we're all just kind of pigs in the mud, and that she's helping us with jam and honey.
This evaluation of Meghan's overall business concept is the most damaging. According to Tim, she sees her clients as less than human beings who require her advice in order to live well. The honey and jam are more than just goods. They serve as representations of her alleged superiority over ordinary individuals who lack life skills. Is patronizing, elitist, and precisely the mindset that causes others to disapprove of everything she does. What this signifies for their future is the greater concern. According to reports, their content deals keep falling through, King Charles has stopped providing financial support, and they are running out of money. Is there a way back when the entertainment industry as a whole turns against you and your business endeavors become material? What are your thoughts? Do you share Simon's opinion, or do you believe they are more deserving of pity? For more royal drama, subscribe and leave a comment below.